Dodger President of Baseball Operation Andrew Friedman is now available. First question's from Alanna Rizzo. Go ahead.
Andrew, congratulations once again for getting to this point. What do you think in terms of the similarities between these two clubs are concerned? Why do you guys have the bigger advantage?
Thank you, first of all. Atlanta's a really good team. They wouldn't be here if they weren't. Really deep, powerful lineup, really deep bullpen, some really good young starting pitching. There's a lot of similarities. Obviously, I'm biased and will bet on our guys, but they're a really good team. And for us, it's about, just creating as many good matchups as we can throughout each game. We're kind of dealing with an unprecedented series in terms of potentially having 7 games in a row. And so I think the depth of your roster has more of a chance to kind of shine. And we feel really good about, 1 through 28 on our roster and, how they can each kind of play a role in winning 4 games.
Both of these teams are coming in fresh, having been undefeated so far in this postseason. What do you like about your arms, particularly your bullpen arms, when you talk about those potential matchups and no days off?
Yeah, I think it's a huge advantage for both teams, especially for the bullpen guys to be able to reset. It is something, again, that we haven't really been a part of before. And even with off days in years past, you run the risk of, kind of overusing some relievers, and not necessarily to the point where they're at risk of getting hurt, but just where it starts to potentially eat into some effectiveness. And so I think, figuring out how to kind of balance that throughout each game, maximize our chances to win. When we have a lead, just keep ourselves in the best position to come back and win a game if we're trailing. We just have a really deep bullpen and guys that kind of match up against different guys and they complement one another. And so, Mark, Pryor, Danny Lehman, Dave Roberts, Josh Bard, Connor McGinnis, they've done an awesome job all year of kind of putting guys in the best position to succeed. And I expect that to continue.
Finally, for me, Andrew, how risky is it to have Edwin on the CS roster when right now he can only pinch hit for you? I would imagine you feel pretty confident that he's going to be able to do more for you moving forward in this series.
Yeah, just day over day over day over day, it's continued to improve pretty significantly. And, the way he, ran the bases yesterday, he took some live at bats, and just the way he was able to fire on his backside, really gave us, more optimism about, where he was, and also not only where he'd be today, but where he'll be in the next few days as well.
Next question is from Dave Essay. Go ahead.
Andrew, Dave alluded the other day about maximizing Dustin May in this series by not just putting him in that starter bucket, but being able to utilize him and still keep in mind the long view of his career. How big of a weapon can he be for you in this series, and how did you come up with that strategy for
him? To Dustin's credit, A, he's really resilient, which helps. But B, he also just wants to help in any way he can for us to win a championship. And so when he pitched, when he threw those 2 innings in game 1 last week, he went up to Pryor after the game. He's like, "Hey, I'm up tomorrow. I'm good to go." We're like, "Easy, easy, Dustin." So obviously it's something from our standpoint where we will, make sure and balance putting him in the best positions to help us win, and also just, taking care of him over the long run, and also over the next 2.5 weeks. He's going to be a big part of us winning a championship and getting 8 more wins. And so, making sure that he continues to stay in a really good spot to do that is going to be really important.
Thank you.
Next question is from Jorge Castillo. Go ahead.
Andrew, the three other guys, front office leaders left in this tournament all worked for you. Are you texting them, talking trash? What's that like? Are you in contact?
Yeah, it's cool to have a personal connection. Obviously, all three are really good friends of mine, and in a vacuum, I'm really happy to see them having success. I said this yesterday, but now I'm to the point where I want each one of them to lose, as I'm sure they feel about me. And it's fun going up against Alex, and hopefully we have the chance next week to go up against one of either Eric or James.
And just going into the series, have you, and by you, the front office and the coaching staff, decided on what Kenley's role will be, and what is that role?
No, I think obviously this has been a popular question, and I totally get it. He is working incredibly hard, and I think, again, what happened in game 2 happened, but we went back and watched it, and the first 19 pitches were really good and really competitive, and then he made some pitches that were mistakes and things that I think he would say weren't his best throws, but he's working incredibly hard. There's some stuff in the delivery that I know Mark and Connor are kind of keying on, but to his credit, all he is saying right now is, I want to be a part of helping us win a championship. It's a text message he's sending to the other bullpen guys. And, from Doc and Mark and Danny's standpoint in game, I think there are really good runs for different relievers, and just how to deploy it and win. Obviously depends on how certain games play out, but I do expect him to be a big part in helping us win a championship.
So is it fair to say you guys don't have a quote unquote ninth inning guy? It's going to be based on, night to night?
I think it's safe to say that each night we're going to do everything we can to put ourselves in the best position to win a game.
Thank you.
Next question is from Bill Plunkett. Go ahead.
Yeah, to play devil's advocate, one of the advantages you've had
You're good at that.
I try my best. One of the advantages you had over every opponent so far in the postseason is your starting pitching depth. Why not just take the 5 guys that you have and run them out there as starting pitchers?
My sense is that each one of those guys are going to pitch a meaningful amount in each of the 5 games. But we have a little bit of flexibility with the timing and bullpens and whatever else to have them, help us along the way potentially. And we'll kind of read and react after each game. And, whatever one of those guys can take down on a game that they're not starting, where it doesn't come with a lot of future costs, has a lot of future benefit by saving some of our relievers from pitching in a game, which then keeps them, more lively, in the future games. And so it's all a balancing act, but I think each one of Walker, Kirsch, Tony, Julio, D. May are all going to play a really big part in this series.
And with the 3 guys running the front offices with those other teams, do you worry that you taught them too much? And does it make you feel old now to have a tree?
Definitely feel old. I think talked about this a lot. I'm not very good at kind of stepping back and reflecting back and really being nostalgic about things in the past. Just the future and what's going on in that moment tend to take up a lot of my time. But, it was a really special time with the Rays with a lot of really talented people who have now gone on and are doing some incredible things. Alex was with us for a couple of years, and he likes to tell people how much he learned while he was here. We also learned a lot from him as well. And so it's going to be fun, and it does add a real personal connection, even watching the American League side of things, and really happy for them up to this point.
Who had the best resume?
That's a good question. Alex, he had just won a AL East.
Next question is from Jon Morosi. Go ahead.
Thanks, Andrew. When you look at your hitting coaches, Brandt and Robert and Aaron, how do their communication styles and their technical perspectives compare and contrast with each other?
They're all really different. I want to pitch SNLA on doing a sitcom on the three of them. It's really enjoyable for us to watch from the cheap seats. They are all really good at what they do, and they all get along incredibly well with some kind of brotherly friction, but also are incredibly well prepared and have kind of each found different lanes to focus more on, but use each other as sounding boards. And, you know, just like parenting, you can deliver a message to your kid that doesn't really land in the way you say it, but the way someone else says it to them, it lands. And it's the same thing. It's a really selfless mentality that our hitting guys have. And, you know, one guy might just have a better ability to connect with one of our guys and have something land. And so, you know, he'll be the kind of message giver, and just the way they are able to zig and zag off each other, we think is a real competitive advantage.
I got time for one more. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Andrew, just wanted to get your take on how good Clayton looks compared to the past few seasons, especially in the past few starts, specifically from a stuff perspective, what you're observing eye test wise and analytically as well.
Yeah. You know, Kirsch has had an unbelievable year. You know, as good as he's even been in the last few years, he kind of kicked it back up a gear this year. And, you know, just the separation from his slider to his fastball, the ability to use his curveball, even just the way he's mixing pitches. It's been really fun to watch. And it says everything you need to know about Kirsch. That I thought in game 2 against the Padres, he didn't have his best stuff. But just the way he competes and executes pitches, you know, put him in position to take down 18 outs and give up 3 runs. And, you know, it was a huge part of us winning that game.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, everybody.